Hello, class. This is me, Mr. Stuart. I am here to finish up talking about imperialism. So, the last couple weeks we've been talking about imperialism, which is the process of gaining territories in order for nations to build their own empires. Nations had different reasons for building empires. Natural resources, religion, power, spread military, all those different reasons. So we've spoken about China, Japan, Africa, India. Today we're going to talk about a couple more regions. We're going to talk about Southeast Asia and the Pacific. We're going to talk about the Anzac nations, which are Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. And then we're going to sum it up with Latin America. All right, so first, let's talk about Southeast Asia and the Pacific. So the one nation I want you to think about is a country called Thailand. All right, Thailand during the 19th century was known as Siam. It was an independent nation that wanted to stay independent, and guess what? They did. They reformed their government, they modernized their ways, and most importantly, they invited Westerners into their nation to help them with these processes, okay, making them a target to not be Westernized. This will be different than the Philippines. The Philippines is going to be acquired by the United States from Spain. So if we go back to the beginning of the year, when we learned about the explorers, the Philippines was colonized by Spain, and it was Spanish territory for about 350 years. What's going to happen is Spain and the United States are going to go to war, the Spanish-American War. The United States is going to win, and Spain's going to owe a lot of money to the United States. In order to cover this debt, they're going to sell the Philippines to the United States. The Philippines will be American territory until after World War II. Also during this war, the United States will acquire Puerto Rico. Hawaii is going to be annexed by the United States. If you think back to the beginning of this marking period, we learned about annexation. What's going to happen is the sugar farmers are going to overthrow the Queen of Hawaii. Because of that, they're going to have no government. So they will invite the United States to come in and annex Hawaii. Hawaii will become United States territory, and then 60 years later, really, it will become the 50th United States. Now to talk about Anzac. Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Let's start with Canada first. Canada is going to be given its independence by the British Parliament. All right, good for them. Canada, it was settled by the French and the British, having lots of cultural issues and conflicts that still continue to this day. However, Australia and New Zealand will be settled by prisoners. No, the prisoners did not escape jail. The British sent them there because they didn't want to keep them in Great Britain. Eventually, these two nations will gain their independence. However, there's going to be people living in those countries to begin with. The Australians will destroy their native population. They're going to be easy to destroy because they live very far apart, whereas the New Zealanders will go to war with the Maori, who are the natives to New Zealand. Finally, Latin America. So about a couple months ago, we learned about independence movements really last month in February, we learned about independence movements in Latin America, right? We talked about what happened in Mexico, we talked about Haiti, we talked about Simon Bolivar, we talked about Dominican Republic. So independence is not going to solve all the problems these nations face. There's still going to be unequal distribution of wealth. There's still going to be regionalism. There's still going to be frequent revolts. Okay, people are not going to be happy with the government they are given. Making these problems worse, there's going to be little industry in Latin America. Basically, the economies are going to stay stuck farming and mining. Okay. So the Latin American nations will not become as rich as they would have had they industrialized. The other problem is going to be the United States, big brother to the north. All right. So from your reading, you learned about the Monroe Doctrine. Okay. The United States took this very seriously. They invested in Latin American nations, but they would interfere whenever there were problems. Cuba, Guatemala, Chile, Dominican Republic, basically every Latin American nation, the United States got involved. All right. The most obvious example of this was the Panama Canal. The United States helped the people of Panama, which was a province of Colombia, revolt against the Colombian government. In exchange, once Panama became an independent nation, the Americans built the Panama Canal and controlled it for almost 100 years. That was today's lesson. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about World War I. Have a great day, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow.